I came back from 3 weeks off the grid and found a steel gate across the only road to my cabin, put there by an HOA I never joined. No warning, no notice, just a fake security booth and a man in a windbreaker telling me I needed permission to go home. I'd been guiding retired combat vets through the Montana backcountry, down a brutal stretch of river called Devil's Elbow. No phones, no signal, just cold water and the kind of silence that makes a man feel human again. That's why I built my cabin in the Rockies in the first place. 18 acres, stone hearth, solar power, no HOA, no committee. So when I rolled back toward home, all I wanted was coffee on my porch and the sound of wind in the pines. Instead, I hit the last bend and saw that gate like a slap in the face. Pine Trail Watch HOA. Private road. Residents only. The guard asked if I had a pass. I told him I owned the cabin at the end of that road, and had for over 10 years. He said all residents now had to register with Pine Trail Watch for road use, and I wasn't on the list. I leaned out the window and said, "My land is not in your HOA. Never has been. I don't pay dues, I don't vote, and I sure as hell don't answer to Karen Burgess. Open the gate." He said I'd need to contact the board. So I parked, filmed the whole thing on my phone, and called the sheriff. A young deputy met me at the bottom of the road, listened, then shrugged and called it a civil matter. Somebody blocks the only road to your house, and suddenly injustice becomes paperwork. She answered on the second ring, voice sweet as poison. "Well, hello, Mr. Sloan. I trust you're back from your wilderness adventures. You put a gate across my road." "Yes," she said. "The board voted to formalize access for the good of the community. I'm not in your HOA." She chuckled. "Our legal counsel updated the access map. The road now falls within our recreational zone. Since you benefit from the infrastructure, it's only fair you comply." I hung up before I said something useful for her lawyer. That night I spread my land papers across the motel bed. By 8 the next morning I was in Rachel Hahn's office. Rachel was my property lawyer and ex-prosecutor. She compared my documents to the HOA's shiny map and laughed once. "This is either stupidity or fraud," she said. "Possibly both." Rachel filed for an emergency injunction. I bought trail cameras. My land sits above the road, so by the next afternoon I had cameras tucked into the trees, aimed at the gate and the booth. The first footage came in the next morning. The same guard who blocked me was opening the gate for tourists and taking cash. Karen wasn't protecting a neighborhood. She was running a toll booth on a county easement. I took the footage straight to the county roads office. By the time I left I'd filed a sworn complaint and handed over copies of everything. That evening another camera caught Karen near the gate after dark. I cleaned up the audio and heard her say, "He's digging. Get rid of anything, receipts, guest log, all of it." That was the first real twist. Up until then, I thought I was dealing with a power-hungry HOA president. After that, I knew I was dealing with someone who already understood she was guilty. The next morning, the sign had changed to some nonsense about maintenance and safety hazards, and I found fresh trenching across the road. Then Rachel called to say Karen had filed a lawsuit claiming I was illegally using HOA infrastructure and owed retroactive dues. My cabin runs on solar, I haul my own water, and that road had been public since Reagan was in office. Then Calvin Ortega called. Cal lived farther up the mountain, and had been there long before Pine Trail Watch. He told me Karen was going door to door, telling neighbors I was unstable, dangerous, making threats, sabotaging utilities. She was building a paper trail to make me look like the problem. That was twist number 2. She wasn't just blocking my road. She was trying to rewrite the story. So I came in the back way on an old logging trail and checked my cabin systems. Water tank full. Pressure dead. I traced the line downhill and found a clean cut near the boundary, capped with an HOA valve. Somebody had physically shut off my water. Then I spotted a camera bolted to a pine and aimed straight at my cabin. Not mine. I took it down, bagged it, and met Rachel that night with everything. Toll footage, Karen's audio, the trench, the water sabotage, the spy camera, and Calvin's statement. Rachel looked at the pile and said, "We're done playing defense." The next morning she filed a countersuit for trespass, harassment, vandalism, illegal surveillance, retaliation, and interference with property access. Then she subpoenaed everything: HOA finances, meeting minutes, communications, security contracts. At the first hearing, Karen walked in polished and smug, with 2 lawyers and a binder full of nonsense. Rachel stood up and said, "We have video of extortion." Rachel laid it out piece by piece: the cash for access footage, Karen ordering records destroyed, the cut water line, the spy camera, the false accusations, the county map proving the road was public. Karen's side tried to call it internal governance. When the judge asked what legal authority the HOA had to install a gate, collect tolls, and trench utilities across a county easement, Karen's lawyers had nothing. The injunction was granted that day. The HOA had 72 hours to remove every obstruction. Watching that gate come down was therapy. The booth went first, then the cables. Then a backhoe twisted that steel frame sideways and dropped it in the dirt. That should have been the end. Karen didn't know how to stop. By that afternoon her lawyers had filed new claims against me. Rachel skimmed it, took a sip of coffee, and said, "She's spinning out." Good. Subpoenaed HOA records showed airfare to Las Vegas billed as leadership retreat, restaurant receipts labeled community outreach, and repeated payments to a consulting company owned by Karen's brother. That's when this stopped being just about my road. This was a grift. Rachel amended the complaint to add self-dealing, embezzlement, and breach of fiduciary duty. The judge froze HOA discretionary funds. Local news got hold of the filing. Neighbors who'd stayed quiet started talking. Then Linda Chalmers, a retired CPA and former board member, stepped forward with original financial statements that didn't match what Karen had shown the membership. At the next hearing, Rachel walked the court through altered maps, fake vote records, drained reserves, payments to Karen's brother, and personal expenses billed to the community. Then Linda explained how Karen overrode votes, redacted records, and threatened anyone who asked too many questions. That's when I learned the ugliest truth in all of it. People like Karen don't get powerful because they're strong. They get powerful because decent people get tired, stay polite, and hope somebody else will deal with them. Silence is fertilizer for this kind of rot. The judge ordered a forensic audit and extended possible personal liability to Karen. After that, everything started collapsing. Board members split. Recall petitions spread. Anonymous tips hit Rachel's inbox. And still, she kept going. I came back to the cabin one morning and found orange fencing around part of my property with a laminated sign reading Environmental Monitoring Area, HOA Oversight Committee. Rachel called the State Environmental Board. Turns out fake regulatory signage can cross into felony territory. Investigators came out, cut the fencing, photographed the site, and found fresh tampering near my water line. This time Karen was named personally. After that, it got loud. Criminal complaints, audit teams, prosecutors. More homeowners stepped forward with stories about harassment and selective fines. One day I got a handwritten note in the mail from someone who'd served on the board. 3 sentences. I was afraid to speak up. I should have said something. I'm sorry. Because in the end, Karen didn't lose just because I fought back. She lost because once the lie cracked, everybody she'd bullied started seeing the same thing. Pine Trail Watch was dissolved pending liquidation. Assets were frozen. Officers were barred from leading another HOA in the state. On my civil suit, the judge ruled in my favor across the board: blocked access, property damage, lost work, emotional distress. Karen and the HOA got hit with a judgment big enough to shatter what was left of her little kingdom. A couple days later, I drove back up to the cabin under a cold blue sky. No gate, no fencing, no camera in the trees, just wind in the pines and gravel under my boots. I found one old HOA access sign half buried near the shoulder, yanked it out, snapped it over my knee, and tossed it in the truck bed. I'm not proud of how good that felt, but I'm not ashamed of it either. The last time I saw Karen was in town a week later. I was getting updated county certifications when I spotted a battered old RV at the edge of a Walmart parking lot. Tarp on the roof, folding chair. And there she was, smaller than I remembered, beside a cardboard sign asking for donations for legal fees. I didn't get out. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her for a second and realized something sweeter than revenge. The law had taken its time, sure, but reality had finally finished the job. No board, no booth, no fake authority, no crowd left to intimidate. Just Karen and the wreckage of her own appetite. That evening I drove back up the mountain, lit a fire in the stone hearth, poured coffee black as creek mud, and sat on my porch with the dog at my boots. Before dark, I installed a new sign at the start of the easement. It read, County Certified Right-of-Way. Not subject to HOA control. Trespassers will be prosecuted. That sign wasn't for Karen. It was for me, a line in the gravel, a reminder that peace means nothing if you won't defend it when somebody dresses greed up as rules and calls it community. So let me ask you this. When somebody uses paperwork, power, and polite language to take what was never theirs, how long do you stay polite before pushing back becomes the only honest thing left to do? And where do you think the line is between justice and payback? Tell me what you would have done in my place, and if you've ever dealt with a bully hiding behind authority, I want to hear your story too.